So over here, we've got your unlikely wings. Now the unlikely, because of what I've mentioned, right? This was the first instance of multiple shoulder blades and it working, right? So really it's just a feat of engineering. Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Fantasy Tutor School. So, do I know you? Do you have an appointment? You're not quite sure. You're only 2 weeks old? Okay. Well, don't worry. It's not my first time. You know, me as a professor, I must, make sure that I take in all of my potential students. So, do you know your name? That's right. Okay. Interesting name. Is that still up for debate? Okay. It's pretty set in stone. All right. Well, you are 2 weeks old. I had to ask. And your species, I can already tell. You're a Griffin. Just going to write that down for you. Perfect. And how long do you think your parents would want you to take this class? You're not sure. Well, I can tell you what the recommended is. We have a 1 week program. Yes, this is very simple, like once every day for 7 days. And what you would end up doing is you would get a crash course in your own anatomy and biology, right? We can do, of course, the 1 month course. That will be, of course, 4 weeks. We will not do weekends for that, so it would be 20 days. And for that, it would not be a crash course, but we would go more into these sort of things that you wouldn't really need to know, but good to know, like some of your history, sort of evolution, sort of magical spells, and the like, like things in relation to your species and how you relate to the magical world of our world. And of course, we have got the 3-month program. That one is fairly simple. Same thing, for 3 months, you'll be with me. I'll be your personal tutor. Well, it'll include the biology course. It'll include a history course. It will also include sort of career counselling. So, as a Griffin, I'm sure you're not really, you've only been around for 2 weeks, but, I'm sure this has been weighing really heavily on your mind. You're going to need to be able to figure out what you want to do. It is never too early. And I tell this to all my potential clients and the parents. It is never too early to get enrolled. So I would absolutely recommend you take the 3-month course. And, you can always drop out. We do have a non-refundable, yes, it is 200 gold per session, of course. Not 200 gold it's 200 gold per day per session, right? So, when you add that up, that's 200 for like the 1 week course, which would be 7 days. So 200 times 7, so that would be 1400 gold. Really it's for a Griffin, a fledgling, right? A fledgling of your birthright. It's nothing really. So, which would you prefer? Would you like option 1 of the 1 week course, option 2, the 1 month course, or option 3, the 3-month course? Okay, so you will take the 3-month course. Perfect. Okay. So then, let me flip right to our contract. Get you to sign. Hold on. Oh, this is all just, fairly boring, bureaucratic nonsense. I hired a devil to be able to write this contract for me because, devils are very good with contracts. But I think it's right here. So if you could just sign this for me right here. Right there. There you go. Here's a pencil. Oh, you should be able, you are dexterous enough with your talents to be able to use, so yes, here you go. Okay. Let's see. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. So, for today, we will just start off. This will be your introductory course, right? This will not be counted towards your 3-month session. This is a free session that you get right at the beginning, right? And this will be really simple and easy to help you understand. As a fledgling, your mind is still developing. However, this is a really crucial time because Griffins are very intelligent creatures, as you know. And your parents certainly did not send you here. No Griffin or any mythological creature would come here to me, particularly just to, mess around. No, I will set you off right in your life. So, once we get started, we have got an important diagram here. So let's just get started here. Here we go. So here we've got a Griffin, right? This is more like a teenager Griffin. Right here, I like to use a fairly young Griffin because a lot of my students end up being fledglings. When they're Griffins, they tend to be fledglings. So this right here is a Griffin. You can see it's got a head and upper body of an eagle, and the lower body of a lion. Now, you may be confused, right? You may have thought, okay, well, are you just a mishmash of two different animals that already exist? And the real answer is that is correct. You've got your wings, you've got your front talons and your back paws. But the really interesting thing, right, is that the Griffins were the first known creature to have 6 shoulder blades. You've got the shoulder blades here for your front. The shoulder blades, well, not really shoulder blades, but they act like shoulder blades where your hips are right here. But then you've got a secondary set right here for your wings, right? This is one of those things where for the longest times, a lot of mages and academics were under this pretense. Every time they crafted their own creature and brought life, they were unable to create something that could fly, right? Because the bones would start interacting with each other. So really, Griffins were the pioneers of that sort of thing. This is the legacy that you have and you need to be aware of. So the important thing right now is that as a fledgling, you are going to grow, and you're going to grow to, as you can see here, it's a pretty light, but it says you're going to grow to 8 feet long. That is pretty long, right? But it's not particularly huge. And don't get me wrong, you're going to be bigger than any human, any elf, anything, right? Me, oh, by the way, I am Professor Talonfeather. So this will be my course. I am only 6 foot, right? So you're going to be much taller than I am. But you must keep an eye out for growing pains. That's something that every fledgling has a real big issue with. They end up either going to a medic, a cleric, something of the sort, and it's good to go. If you have the gold, you may as well go, but please be aware of it. We cannot have another suicide on our hands because of improper education. So once we move on, your wingspan is going to be 25 feet. You see, so while your body is only 8 feet, and that's already pretty long, your wingspan is going to be 25 feet long. And this is going to play a really big part in not only your mating rituals, but also within how you scare potential predators, right? As a griffin, you do not have a lot of predators, but the predators that you do have, say chimeras, dragons, and that sort of their ilk, the way you can fend them off is through like fear tactics. And this is important, right? Because no one's going to teach you this, but you need to be aware. Griffins are not born with natural survival instincts, and we're going to get to that, right? Because right here, you can see this is an egg. This is what you came out of, right? A nice hearty egg with some spots. The first discovered egg was in a mage's tower. Griffins feel like an unholy mishmash of two different creatures because they kind of are, And please do not take offense to me saying you're an unholy mishmash. It's simply the truth. And you do not pay me to lie. So, this is really important because you were created, you do not have that sense of survival, your survival instinct, right? So these are the types of things you need to keep in mind. You need to be able to do what you do, spread out your wings. Right here, you can try it. Here, I can help you, right? Yes, there you go. See, and when you spread them out, you look bigger. You look more menacing. You look like you can really take on whatever you need. So, we can just go over some of the basics, right? So we've got here points to, this is your ferocious snoot, right? This is the technical term. Every griffin has a ferocious snoot. It can claw the insides of any animal or creature that it wants to. Because it's incredibly sharp, but it's also incredibly swoopy, right? As you see right here, because it's incredibly sharp right here, and then it gets really large, right? When it connects to your head, it ends up being very attractive. And I don't mean in that sort of sense. Get your mind out of the gutter. You may be 2 weeks old, but it's still a no-no. But it's very attractive in the sense that it's very cute, right? And so a lot of people have decided to dub it a snoot. Personally, I find that to be quite offensive. You are a majestic creature and you deserve to be spoken about with deference and respect. However, it simply is not the case. So, if we move on, the next thing that we have is we have over here your terrifying talons, right? These are very, very, very strong. They're also incredibly potent with magic. You don't know this, right? You're only a griffin, but because of your birthright, because you were an egg created from a line of a mage's experiment, you have so much potential in the magical wizarding world that you're going to end up getting people that are going to want you for that innate magical properties. And we'll explain a bit more about that later. But just keep that in mind as we move forward, all right? This is really important. Let's move on. So over here, we've got your unlikely wings. Now they're unlikely because of what I've mentioned, right? This was the first instance of multiple shoulder blades and it working, right? So really, it's just a feat of engineering, and it's absolutely brilliant. I wrote my dissertation on this. It's fantastic. What's a dissertation? You don't need to understand that. That's fine. It's academics, bards, and I despise being with bards, but you will understand. Bards tend to have, but you know what? We'll talk about that later. If we move on, next we've got paw pads. That's in your hind legs, right? You've got paw pads. Now, this is really important, right? If you were a pure feline, you would land on your feet all the time, but you have wings so you can fly. So these paw pads tend to feel very raw and incredibly soft. Really, really uncomfortable landing pads. So really, it's a fault of you by design that you have these paw pads. And I am sorry to tell you this, but we all have flaws. And it's really not, my flaw is that I am incredibly intelligent. Your flaw is that you have paw pads. That's really, it's absolutely comparable. So, any questions on this part? Right, we've got the head, the snoot, we've got the terrifying talons, we've got the paw pads, and we've got the unlikely wings. So how do you feel about this so far? Good? Good, okay. So let's move on. So here we've got a few things, right? Yeah, I can move this down. So here at the bottom, we've got two things. Let's start here. This says magical combo. So as we've talked about before, this is you are a descendant of felines and of birds, of aviation. So what's interesting about this is that you take a lot of your mating rituals, a lot of your habits from both. You end up having packs. You end up having like a leader of the pack tends to be male, but can be female sometimes. And sometimes if you are born female, you can become male and become the leader if you would like to. It's really all about identity. And vice versa, if you don't want to lead as a male, you can totally become a female. It's really not a big deal. However, with the aviation, you do end up having a lot of alone time, right? Birds are very lonely creatures. Well, not birds in particular, but eagles. They're very lonely creatures because they're predators. And so it ends up being a sort of clash. So there's a lot of inter-clan war between Griffins, right? And this is something I don't really know what clan you're from. I did not ask about that information. That is against our policy here because we teach everybody equally. So you're going to have to talk to your mom and dad about this and figure out what clan you come from, what wars are going on, who slighted who, that sort of thing, right? So, and an interesting thing, this I learned from my dissertation, something that I think a lot of Griffins are really enjoy knowing, is that if you've noticed over here, you're way more eagle than you are lion. The lion part, no one likes to be the butt part of a costume, and the lion part is the butt part. So we've come to determine that the feline/cat part is recessive. And then the bird part is dominant, right? Within like within science, magical science. And I think it has something to do, this is something we're trying to figure out, right? This structure was found within the notes right here. It was found within the notes at, not but the Griffin's conception, where this egg was. Right? So let's recap so far. You're Griffin. You are half eagle, half lion. You've got a ferocious snoot. You've got terrifying talons. You've got paw pads. And you've got unlikely wings. You have come from an egg. And the first egg was discovered at a mage's tower, thought to have been the mage's creation before his untimely demise. Because of your magical combo of feline and bird, you end up taking both traits, like in terms of mating and social habits. And we've determined that your feline part, your feline ancestry is recessive, and your bird ancestry is dominant. So theoretically, if there were a griffin that had more bird than, like, more eagle than lion, and they mated with another griffin that had other parts that were more bird than, more eagle than lion, you would get even more eagle in the next batch of the next litter. It's very interesting, really. So if we move on over here, this is a small chart I made. This is important because you're not, it's a little unfortunate. Unlike us elves, griffins do tend to die very quickly, and because of all the interclan wars. I don't know how long you're going to have your parents. I am sorry. I'm super sorry to break the news. But what's good about that is I'm going to teach you, right? You, as a fledgling and as a griffin, your favorite food as a prey is going to be a horse, right? It's a bit sad, but they're smaller than you, but not that much smaller, and they're very, very filling. And you will be satisfied with a horse for a very long time. Next is humans. Yes, that's right. Humans can be part of your diet. It's only natural, they're the appropriate size. Depending on the clan of Griffin, you can either work with humans or hunt humans. It really doesn't matter to me. I am an elf, and we have made peace a long time. Your creator was an elf. Yes, it was a mage elf. And then over here, rats. This is a holdover from your feline days. So really, the rat, it's not very filling. It's sort of like popcorn, right? You could chug them and you will not get full. But it doesn't really matter because rats are plenty. And you are, as a griffin, pretty immune to the Black Plague. You're immune to a lot of the diseases that rats can sometimes hold. So they're really, they're just for you to have fun with, right? But you are a carnivore, right? You must have meat. No vegan diets for you, fledgling. All right, so horse, your favorite here with a little heart. It's your favorite. And then a human and a rat. All right? Okay. So, next we're going to look at over here. So, because you have no survival instincts, we need to discuss what are some things to fear, right? Why would someone want to hurt you? First thing we have right here is your quill, right? You are filled with feathers. These feathers are beautiful and strong, and they make perfect quills. Better than any regular eagle, better than any pigeon, better than any bird, really. And so oftentimes when you are have an alliance with humans, they will take your feathers. Oftentimes it's with consent, and if they don't do it with consent, you have full permission to maul them to death, right? That is an invasion of privacy. Not even just privacy, it's an invasion of the self, right? And that will be lesson 2, of course, is, self-identity and self, right? So we'll get to that later. Next is, of course, ink. The yolks of griffins within the egg make perfect ink. It's so shocking. I know it's really, really gross, but also kind of crazy. Oh yes, I mean, it's something that you must understand, that humans, they have no sense of respect or decorum, right? They're very, very, I don't want to use a problematic term, right? So I'll just say that they're uncouth. So here, your yolks make really good ink. Your quills, your feathers make really good quills. Lastly, like I said before, due to high magical aptitude, you are a product of magic, and so you make perfect fodder for spells. If they need a sacrifice, if they need like any sort of hair or fur, if they need feathers, if they need a skull, if they need bones, anything, the griffin, like a griffin ends up being incredibly strong. And acts as an amplifier to whatever spell any mage is trying to cast, right? And so really, magic has been very unkind to you griffins. And that's something that I think your people really need to work out, because magic is truly wonderful, but it has done a lot of wrong. So these are simple 3 things. There are other things that you must keep in mind that I did not put here because it does sound a bit too gruesome. But I will mention the paw pad thing because they are very raw and very soft. People do end up taking them from you and using them in as pillows and pillows. No, we don't do it, of course. No, us elves, we end up weaving our own fabrics and our own cotton, not from a plant, but just out of magic, out of thin air. See, that's why magic is so impressive, right? Is you're able to create such things. So I don't know why humans resort to it, but whatever. So, what I was saying was that we can move on here. Actually, let's do these 2. We need to discuss a few things here, and the first thing is this. Now, this is your digestive system. You have 3 digestive systems, 3 stomachs, really. The first one ends up consuming and eroding a lot of the bone, a lot of calcium. The second one ends up consuming all of the protein, all of the meat, and the last one ends up dealing with the fat. It's very inefficient, and really stomachs, when it comes to elves, when it comes to humans, they're very similar. It all gets broken down at the same time, and then it gets all the different nutrients get differentiated. It doesn't really work that way. But what's important about having 3 is that, remember what I said, horses are your favorite. It's because they provide so much nutrients and they're so filling that your 3 stomachs, you could be full for days, not even just days, for weeks, right? So really keep that in mind. And so over here we've got your talons and your paw pads. Highly adaptable. This is something I like to bring up whenever I teach a griffin. Griffins are highly adaptable. You are created, despite yourselves. You have an unholy mash of different, uses for your appendages. But that just means that you've got a lot of tools, right? You have got ways to deal with situations that others do not. And so do not feel down about your birth. Do not feel down about being a griffin. You are wonderful. And lastly here, I just wanted to talk a little bit. This is just your head. I just wanted to mention all of the different holes that you might have. This is really important because as a fledgling, as you grow up, there tends to be a lot of interest. You might pierce yourself with your talons in a hole. You might be confused. What is this? So you end up having ear holes like every other bird. And you also have a mouth, which is where you eat. And then you also have a nose, right? You have these little nostrils. So it's just important for you to know, right, that despite the fact that you are both lion and eagle, it's really all about this ear, right? you have an ear hole that ends up getting covered with your feathers. So if you really want to hear someone, you have to move that away, right? So that's just all that there is to it. So that's just the beginning of our lessons. It's just an introduction. Relax. Don't worry too much about it. If you've forgotten a lot of it, we'll end up talking about it. We'll end up going through it. But I also have one more thing we need to discuss, and it's potential career goals. You did pick the 3-month course, which means that you have career goals you need to think about. Now, I end up having suggestions about this, right? Because there are generally 5 different career paths that a Griffin can take. And it's just something I need you to think about, right? So the first one that you can go with is you can be a mount, right? You can dedicate yourself to a cause, you can dedicate yourself to a town, a city, a village, and you could be the mount, the Griffin mount. It ends up paying pretty well, but it ends up leading to an early grave. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Next is you can be a courier. This is something that you are naturally good at. You'd basically be like a pigeon going back and forth with messages, but you'd have a little saddlebag, you'd have different messages, you're much more intelligent, right? So you're able to like go to different addresses, figure out, oh, the old hag that lives at the top of the hill, yes, I know where that is, whereas a pigeon wouldn't really, right? So that one ends up paying squat, not very good, but it's very steady. You're not really going to encounter much difficulty, and of course, if your clan allows it, because you are going to be dealing with humans in this job. Next is a lab assistant, right? There is a faction of Griffins. They've decided to work with the mages to figure out more about their creation. And so you can go into magical development and that sort of thing, right? Or be like an assistant to a legendary wizard or witch, right? Next is you can be an enemy to the people. This is something that, it really is hit or miss as to whether it's something that people can succeed at. I think it really requires a certain type of personality. It requires a lot of charisma as well, right? And, looking at you, I'm not sure as a fledgling if you have that charisma yet. But just something to keep in mind. And lastly, you can be a ranger's pet. You will forfeit a lot of your rights as an individual, but I hear it is good pay. So just something to keep in mind. All right then. So you have all of the information that you need. Please get back to me with your payment. The rest of the payment, you've already given me the payment for this one. And we will talk at our next session. All right then. Bye-bye.